Welcome to the Her Vibe is Pretty podcast, where you'll be guided on how to step up into your evolved woman,
design your dream life, and start living it. Let's get vibey.
Welcome back to another episode of the Her Vibe is Pretty podcast. Today is a great day because Mary and I are recording together again. Mary,
we are together.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I have missed recording with you, and I have missed you guys so freaking much. It's like been such a blessing to take some time away to spend time with baby and all the good things, but I have missed this.
You guys, I have the chills because we haven't talked about this because obviously we haven't recorded together. And also, you might not have even realized, we might have tricked you. You guys might have thought that Mary has been recording, but she hasn't. We prepped some episodes before she took maternity leave. And we also had some like other episodes, interviews that Mary did with other people, interviews that I did with other people that we've been sprinkling in. So it feels good to be back recording again. But the funny story is that Mary and I actually had planned to record one more episode together before baby came. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny. Like, she's here now. She has a name, but we've referred to her as baby for so long. So we planned this episode and we were like going to record it. And all of a sudden I get a text at like 6 a.m. one morning saying it's happening. And I'm like, oh my God. So Ava came, a week early, right? Or a week?
Yeah, it was like a little over, I think. Yeah, it was like a little over a week early.
Yeah. So we didn't get to record that last episode together, but it's okay because here we are. Time flew.
Here we are. I know. It like has flown by, but at the other hand, it also feels like we haven't done this in so long.
I know.
But yeah, it feels good to be back.
How's mom life?
I feel like I'm going to have to create an entire episode talking about mom life and obviously sharing my birth story. That's been a plan. So I won't go too deep. But I freaking love being a mom. Like, I love mom life so much. It has its challenges, but it's so fun. And the amount of love that I feel for this little tiny human, little vibey baby Ava, is unreal. And it's one of those things that people say you'll never know until you're in it. And that is so true. Like, you think you know, but you don't know until you're holding that little baby in your arms. But no, she's 2 months now, and she's killing it at being a little newborn baby. You know, she's sleeping really well and eating really well, and she's happy and fun, and we're loving life. She's a really good napper, which I also am, so she's got that in common with me.
Listen, I don't know much about like mom life yet, pregnancy yet, but I have an intuition that a reason that Ava is the way she is because of you and your energy. Like, babies are so connected to their moms, and like, I think way more connected than our minds even realize. And you, I mean, of course you had challenges in your pregnancy, but you flowed through them in such a woke way. And like, you were good about like meditating and resting and taking care of yourself. And I have to believe that the way that she is has something to do with that.
I love that. And I like to think so as well. It'll be so interesting, if God willing, baby number 2 comes along, just to kind of feel the difference between the two. But I will say, like, you're never quote unquote ready to have a kid. That's what people will tell you. And I feel like when I look in hindsight, it was like everything did happen in perfect timing. So I think about all of the shifts and changes mentally that I went through in 2020 that prepped me to go with the flow with pregnancy and now stepping into motherhood, because there's so much that you have to just surrender and let go and go with the flow and be able to handle different things that come your way in a way like with love and with grace, which I don't think I could have done before. Yeah. But now I feel like after going through all of that mental work on the front end, I feel like it just makes this challenging thing a lot more fun and flowy. Yeah. Which is what we're going for here. Like, that's why I practice yoga. That's why I practice meditation and breath work, is to make life's challenges, which are going to happen in one way or another, make them a little bit smoother instead of this like chaotic roller coaster of a ride.
Right. So good.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's so kind of you to say too.
Of course. All right. So we obviously have to talk about what's making us feel vibey. And I have a feeling that Ava is what's making you feel vibey. So I want you to give us a couple things that are making you feel vibey lately. So of course, talk about Ava, but give us a couple more things.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, obviously Ava, the thing right now that she's doing that I'm most vibey about is that the first thing in the morning, so she wakes up around 7 in the morning, and I I go up to her, or Jake, both of us together sometimes. We'll go up to her and we'll unswaddle her. So we're like waking her up and like getting her out of her swaddle. And she smiles and giggles like she's so excited to see us every morning. It is
So cute.
like heart melter, instant tears, like the cutest thing you've ever seen. The excitement on her face, like,
I'm
you're here.
awake.
You're here. I'm awake. It's a new day. And I was thinking about that because, like, you know how we talk about how like we get conditioned throughout our life as we grow older and as we soak in things in our society and the teachers and the people that were, our parents' beliefs and all those things. But right now, Ava's like at her purest,
Mm,
like she's not conditioned by much at this point. She's only 2 months old.
right.
And I thought, how beautiful is it that this little 2 month old baby wakes up and is so freaking happy for the day ahead?
Yeah. I love that.
And like, how can we start to embody that excited energy at the start of a brand new day?
Right.
And so that was one thing that it dawned on me where I'm like, this is such a happy, fun moment
Mhm.
where I feel like there are definitely times where, well, I've talked about it before, but like when I was working, it was like my alarm goes off and it's like, ugh, another day at the office. Or when I would wake up and I'd feel anxious, "Oh, I've got to do this and this and this and this in my business." And it's like we have this beautiful gift of like a brand new day,
Mhm.
and it's inspiring to see a little 2-month-old baby who, whether she knows it or not, is like excited and happy and
Yeah.
looking forward to the day. And it makes me want to embody that kind of energy.
I love that so much. And it's funny you bring that up because I was literally just thinking last night about how, because I try to be on top of getting sleep, but I've found lately that it's like hard for me to go to bed. And then I was thinking about it and I'm like, how cool that I don't want to go to bed because I just want to keep living my life.
Oh, I love
Like,
that.
how cool that I'm so obsessed with my life right now that I don't wanna go to sleep because I don't wanna miss life.
Yeah.
And then I was, like, thinking about it and thinking about how it definitely was not always that way. And same with waking up in the morning. I mean, I will say that lately I've been a little more tired in the mornings than usual, probably because 'cause I've been staying up a little bit later, but I still look forward to my days ahead when I finally do pull myself out of bed. And it was not always like that. I didn't always look forward to doing my days ahead. And there was once a time where I'm like, is it bedtime yet? Like, when is it 8 o'clock? Like, I just need my bedtime to get closer because I want to go to bed. It isn't like that anymore. And so I don't know, maybe we can do another episode all about that because it wasn't
Mhm.
always that way for me. And I know that it's not that way for a lot of people. And it wasn't always
Right.
that way for you. But we all have experienced that at some point in our life as those pure little babies and kids,
Mhm.
really. Because look at a child, like a toddler, super excited to get up in the morning. Like now they even have those little clocks that turn green, telling the toddler when they can get up because they just want to
Right.
get up.
They wanna get
And
up
they,
and go get
yeah,
at
and
it.
they don't want to go to bed and they don't want to take naps
Mhm.
because they're just so enthused with life and earth. And that's our innateness. That's in all of us. It's just a matter of like discovering that part of us again.
Totally. We could totally talk about this because I have a few more things I wanna say, but let's save it for an episode because
Okay.
I think that'd be a good one. Okay, non-baby related
Yes, let's
vibey.
hear it.
I'm starting to practice yoga again.
Hell
So
yeah.
I am feeling good AF about that because it's been months since I've had a legitimate yoga practice
Mhm.
because probably like midway through the second trimester, I started getting really bad pelvic pain. So anything that like my legs were separated, which is just about anything you do in yoga
Mhm.
and like walking, like everything you do, it would be just like very uncomfortable and very sore.
Mhm.
So that kind of put a hiatus on my yoga practice. I do little bits here and there, but I kind of cut out a lot of that type of exercise, which sucks because I love practicing yoga. It's my life in so many ways. And I, let myself recover. I went 6 weeks, without doing anything, got the green light from my doctor to start practicing again, that everything is all healed up and good. And so I'm starting to get back into my yoga practice, and I'm feeling vibey about it for maybe a different reason than you would even think,
Mhm.
is because I feel my body feels so different after being pregnant, delivering a baby, and now getting back into it. So I kind of am getting these feelings, or like reminiscing on being a beginner again at
Mm.
something that I have done for so long and become an expert in. It feels cool to kind of step into it with this new lens. And so it's just inspiring me for like new content to create and to explore things in my practice that used to feel very normal and now feel different, even though I'm doing the same thing. And I'm really excited about that. Like, it just makes me excited to spend more time on my mat and explore and just kind of like ease back into my yoga practice.
Yeah, so good. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you.
Yeah,
That
thanks.
sounds like
So,
light in my body just hearing you speak about it.
oh, good. What are you feeling vibey about, Sarah?
I'm feeling vibey about two things. So, first and foremost is breath work. Our listeners have heard me talk a lot about breath work these past few weeks because, as all of you probably already know, I recently finally got certified as a breathwork facilitator. And I just like dove right in, didn't waste any time, got that certification and started booking workshops, just launched my Breathe Free course. And this week I actually had a workshop, sold out workshop on Monday. And then Breathe Free, our first call was Tuesday night. And so I'm still on a high from both of them. Like today is Thursday. So yesterday was Wednesday. And the entire day I could just feel my soul not wanting to do anything but just take in all the goodness that's been being created through the breath. The breakthroughs and the transformations that happened on Monday and Tuesday night were just beyond my expectations.
Oh, I
And
love
I
that
shouldn't have
so
been
much.
surprised. And I was telling like, who was I telling this? I was telling someone this the other day how I've had those experiences, of course, with breathwork, as have you. And I've been in classes where my peers have those profound experiences. And, typically we chat about them at the end, but it feels completely different being the facilitator of the
Mm,
class and then
mhm.
hearing about those breakthroughs and those transformations at the end, because it's like, my clients, my students, they are the ones creating their transformations and their breakthroughs through their breath. They're doing the work. I'm simply holding the space and guiding them into that. But it feels really good because, and after the workshop on Monday, I was just on a freaking high. Same with Tuesday night. And Zach and I have been talking a lot about it. And just like my experience with it. And I'm just so lit up because this is my passion and this is my purpose. Like I am here to that, and that's what I set out to do from the very first time I decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur and a coach, which I started out as a holistic health coach. So it was a lot different than what I'm doing now. But I remember saying before I made that decision to like go all in on, all right, I'm going to become a health coach, I'm going to start my own business. I just want to show people how good they can feel because for so long, and I mean, I did discover all of this in my 20s, which I feel very blessed that I did, but I would still say that's, 20 plus years is a really long time. I thought that I just didn't know how good I could feel. I thought that a lot of the things that I was struggling with, like anxiety and binge emotional eating and stress and mood swings and feeling really high and then feeling really low, I thought that was just all like normal and common and a part of life. And so when I discovered that it wasn't, I was like, I need every single human who is in this conditioned bubble that this has to be the way, like this has to be how life feels. I need them all to know that it is not and that they can feel really fucking good. So seeing that come to fruition is just very, very fulfilling for my soul. My soul's like, yes, this is it. This is why we're here.
Oh, that is like so beautiful on so many levels. And that's one of the things I miss the most too is my breathwork practice, because I
Yeah.
put that on hold as well. And I have not really dove back into that like I was before getting pregnant. But what you touched on about this is not like feeling all that stress and anxiety and overwhelm, you kind of think that's normal. And a lot of
Right.
people will tell you that's very normal. Like if you're happy all the time or majority of the time, it's kind of like, what's wrong with that person? Like, why are they
Mhm.
so happy all the time? But the thing is, it can be that way.
Yeah.
And I know for me, hands down, breath work was one of the most influential things that I did in 2020. And like I mentioned earlier, is what helped prep me and work through some of those beliefs and
Mhm.
limiting thoughts and emotions that I had stored up in my body. It
Yeah.
helped me process those in such a profound way.
Mhm.
I made like 2020 was like one of the biggest leaps that I made, and breathwork was a huge component to that. So
Yeah.
like Jake and I were just talking the other day because he's been going through the ringer at work, like just crazy stuff going on at work with him. He's super stressed out. He's being stretched into a million different directions, spread thin. Like the poor guy is going through it, you know? And I'm like, he's another one where like in the mornings, like, ugh, I have to go face all this crap again today. And I'm like, dude, you need to start doing breath work.
Yeah.
You need to do it. And it's hard because you can't force someone to do it.
Right.
Like they need to want to do it to get the profound benefits from it.
Right.
But when I hear people talk that way, all
Totally.
I can think is like, you need to do breath work
Yeah.
ASAP. Like start
Yeah.
doing it every single day.
Yeah.
You'll feel so much better.
Yeah. Hell yeah. It's amazing. And so, yeah, it's all that stuff is, I would say that it's common, but not normal. Like our normal is
Right.
what Ava is right now. Like our normal is that pure divine soul who's so excited to like wake up in the morning and like sad to go to bed at night, you know? And our souls are pumped to be on earth. And once again, and we'll always preface this with this, we'll always say it, not to say that there aren't supposed to be challenges and there aren't supposed to be hard times and there aren't supposed to be like those like funks. Those are here for us, but we all have access. And so another thing too with breathwork is, and the breakthrough I've been seeing the most is like these people telling me that they haven't cried in years and they bawled throughout the session. There was like 4 of them on Monday's workshop.
Was this
And
their
then
first do you have a lot of students that it's like their first time doing breath work?
totally, which is cool because, and I was explaining this somewhere. I was like, maybe in my stories, a lot of these people who were in the workshop, and same with who are in Breathe Free, it's not like they've fully like they're not like meditators every single day. It's not like they're like super woke already and super spiritual. Majority of the people in the workshop, it was their very first time ever doing a full breathwork session. And same
Mhm.
within Breathe Free, there's quite a few people who've never devoted themselves to a full breathwork session for weeks on end. So it's not like a lot of these people are, I would say, beginner to intermediate. So and they're still having those breakthroughs. And that's possible. Like it's not like, and now, of course, breathwork does take a devotion. Like, you drink water all day long to keep yourself hydrated every single day, and you continue to nourish your body. And with breathwork too, if you want to see the most benefit and if you want to stay connected and feel that peace and bliss every single day, it's a devotion.
Mhm.
But that's not to say that if you're a beginner, you can't have those profound experiences because
I cried through my first session. I
yeah.
remember, and I had a solid yoga practice, but I had 0 meditation. Like,
Hmm.
I was not a meditator,
Right.
and breathwork was, like, the gateway for me. But I, like, didn't know what I was getting myself into when I did my breathwork session. I'm like, "Oh, breathwork? I breathe during yoga, like, I know what I'm doing." Absolutely not. Oh my god, it was
Yeah.
wild, and I remember, like, tears were just streaming down my face. I'm like, "What is happening to me right now?"
Mhm.
But I felt when I was finished in my very first session, like, reborn. Like,
Yeah.
it was incredible.
So good.
So,
So yeah, that's been making me feel very high vibe, and I'm
as
sure
it
that will
should.
continue. It's been a really, really nice week. And so on top of that, another thing that's making me feel high vibe, which I'm sure this will be my next week too, but this weekend we're going camping, and I haven't been camping in so long. And
Ooh.
camping
Like,
growing
are
up,
you going, like, in a tent, or are you going,
yeah,
like, in a
no,
tent
we're tent
camping?
camping. And I'm
Haha.
so excited because growing up, that's what I was gonna say is that we had a camper, and it wasn't fully glamping, but it was like,
You weren't, like, sleeping on the floor
no,
or the
like we
ground.
had a camper, we had nice beds, we had stoves, ovens, all the things. But Zach and I don't have a camper. We're borrowing my mom's tent. So we are going tent camping, and I love nature. I freaking love nature. We're going to be right by it. So Lake Michigan is freaking beautiful. If you've never been to Michigan, if you've never seen pictures, look up Lake Michigan. It's gorgeous.
It looks like
But
an
we're,
ocean. Like, a lot of times when I post pictures of Lake Michigan, they're like, "That's an ocean." I'm like,
yeah.
"It is."
All my friends who visit from out of state are like, "Oh, this is a lake." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a lake." So we're right by Lake Michigan. We're in the middle of nature. It's very, very beautiful campground. And so we're doing that. And I've made the decision to delete, and my like smaller self in my chest is contracting as I'm saying this, but I'm deleting all social media all weekend, which I haven't done. I challenge my clients like once a week too, and I do the same thing unless I'm launching, to delete social media 1 day a week. And I do that and it feels really good and it feels very rejuvenating. I haven't deleted social media for 3 days straight, probably since I started my business, which was like two and a
Dang.
half, 3 years ago. So
I've never done it, so
yeah,
I applaud you.
deleting the social media apps, going out in nature. Of course, I'm still gonna have my phone. I'm all about pictures and videos. I just got a new phone and I love like photography. That's super creative for me, and videography. So I'll be doing some of that, but I'm deleting social media and I'm just gonna have like a freaking weekend cleanse. I'm so excited.
Ooh, I love that. So I haven't been camping in a while, but Jake and I would always go tent camping too.
Mm.
And we used to legit like sleep on the ground. And then I finally was like, we need a mattress. My back cannot handle this anymore. But it's so
Well,
fun. What I love is waking up to the
mhm.
sounds of nature.
Yeah.
That
Oh my
is
God.
like we usually go camping. Um, well, we've gone to like normal campgrounds before, but we usually would go on Labor Day and we'd camp at this place right on the river. It was like a friend's
Mm.
grandparents' like private lot. So we would camp there right on the river. And so the sound of like running water would like wake us up
Yeah.
in the morning. And it was, oh, I get like chills when I think about it.
How blissful. I haven't been camping since I've gotten into spirituality. It's been years for me. So I am so excited to be in nature, fully immersed, and to do my breath work and to do my meditations and to do my journaling and to have my lattes in the middle of freaking nature. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. So, and you guys, I mean, while we're talking about it, because we are always recommending vibey practices, vibey things to do. If you live somewhere where there's some kind of campground or some kind of nature where you can go throw up a tent nearby, it's such a cheap way to get a divine spiritual experience. Like,
Mhm.
delete your social media apps, whether you're alone or with people, and go set up a tent in the middle of the woods somewhere and camp, because
You'll
that's
feel
gonna,
so rejuvenated.
yeah, it'll connect you so deep to your body.
You're gonna have so much fun. I'm feeling very vibey for you.
Thank you. All right. Well, we needed that little catch up sesh because it's been a while since we've recorded together, but let's move into our topic today, which is a very highly requested topic: fear of failure.
I resonate with fear of failure deeply.
Me too.
I'm still resonating with it
Mhm.
because as you start to work through one fear, I feel like new ones start to pop up, and now you've got something brand new to work through.
Mhm.
And I know for me, I feel like you hear fear of failure all the time. Like when I started dipping my toe into entrepreneurship world, you hear that all the time, fear of failure, blah blah blah. And I was very much like, I'm not, that's not a problem for me. Like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of it at all. I want to do it so bad. Like, I hate what I'm doing right now. I want to do it so bad. I'm not afraid of that. So that's not something that I need to work through.
Mhm.
And I was almost like in denial. Like, I was in denial that that was a thing for me.
Mhm.
And now in hindsight, again, this was before I knew about limiting beliefs. This was before I really dove deep into things, like into emotional blocks and that sort of thing. I didn't even know how to dive deep into that sort of stuff. Um, and so at this point, I know for me, like, even though the words quote unquote fear of failure, I was like dismissing them. For me, it started to show up in some different ways. And so I think we can share some examples of how that shows up or could show up. So even if you're thinking, like, I'm not afraid of failure, I'm not afraid of that, there could be other symptoms, if you will, that are starting to show up for you that actually kind of root down to that fear of failing.
Yeah, like procrastination.
Yup, procrastination is a huge one. And so like I was thinking like um just like, yeah, not taking action. Like there was no reason I wasn't taking action,
Mhm.
and I kept procrastinating and putting things off when that behavior came from that belief of like, what if I fail?
Right. Yeah. Fear of failure, it comes up so much in everybody's journeys. And I think it does happen for us. I mean, it's just one of those challenges that when you move through it, you grow into a higher version of you, into
Yep.
a more authentic version of you, into a more connected version of you. So, yeah, I definitely experienced that fear of failure. But I would say for me, I I was like more admitting, I guess. I don't know if that admitting aware, like I knew I was afraid of failing. And it was mostly because I was looking at all the pressure that I had coming from people around me, which was from a place of love, right? Family, friends, like just wanting me to succeed and voicing that to me that they just want me to succeed and they want me to be okay in life. And so, and those voices came up when I decided, hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm actually not going to go get a 9 to 5 job at a college and I'm going to start a business. And I took everybody else's thoughts about that and it scared the shit out of me. And I'm like, well, fuck, I better not fail now. Like, what if I do fail? What's going to happen? What are people going to think about me? What is my family going to think? What are my friends going to think? So I would say that when it came to starting my business, there was a huge fear of failure. And let's just give a couple more examples. Like,
Yeah. So one for me was making excuses.
yeah.
So mine would be, well, I won't have any benefits if I quit my job and start my own thing. You know, I get lots of benefits here. I know what I'm doing here. I get a salary here. Like I make the same amount of money here. So it's something I can rely on. Like it was almost an excuse for like why, even though I was feeling so called to leave and start my own thing, I
Mhm.
kept creating excuses for like why I shouldn't because I was afraid of it not working and then having to figure things out then.
Yeah.
Another big excuse for me was not having enough money saved. So like the money excuse, and that's a whole nother can of worms that you can go
Mhm.
down. But it's like that was a big block for me because I was afraid of failing and not making any money.
Right.
Um, and then another huge one for me was being afraid of wasting my time. Like, I don't want to create this program or I don't want to create this blog post if no one's going to see it
Mhm.
or if only one person signs up for it. Like, oh, then I have to like waste my time. And so instead of wasting my time, I would just keep procrastinating, like we mentioned, and putting it off and making excuses and then not taking any action.
Right.
Like, that's what it ultimately came down to. And I think that is a big reason why it took me so many years to feel that calling to start my own business to by the time I actually took action.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. The business one is so real. And if you're listening and you're an entrepreneur, like that's such a real thing. And maybe if you're not an entrepreneur yet, maybe you are in a 9 to 5 job or a corporate job and you have a pull to be an entrepreneur. And even if you don't, I'm sure that there are more things, and we'll give a couple more examples that this fear of failure comes up. For me, a big one was with my health when I was in the process of healing the acne and the hormones and getting my period back. There was a huge lingering fear of failure in multiple different facets. So, like, there was a fear of failure when it came to trying something new, working with a new doctor, trying new supplements, trying a new program. There was always this voice in my head that's like, well, maybe you shouldn't do it because what if it doesn't work and what if you fail? Well, maybe you shouldn't try this because nothing's worked so far. And what if you keep failing? And what if you keep failing? And honestly, I think even though at the time I was putting the emphasis in like the product or the doctor, it was never about that. It was this part of me that was afraid of like my body failing me, I guess you could
mhm,
say.
right.
But, and we're going to get into this in a little bit. Right now, it's just examples, but like I had to go through everything that I went through to get where I am today. And at the time, the mind didn't realize that. But there were definitely, so the doctor who ended up helping me heal all of it. It's so like it's just funny how all this works sometimes because the doctor who ended up helping me get my period back after 2 years of it missing, heal my gut, heal my hormones, and then therefore that really helped heal my skin. I looked into working with her like a year prior to when I actually did. And I looked into it, and the financial investment at the time scared me.
Yeah, that's related to skin or related to anything. When you have to put a large amount of money to
Yeah.
invest in something, whether it's a program, a doctor, any sort of just financial investment, whether you're
Yeah.
buying a property or putting money in the stock market or
Mhm.
whatever you do, um, very scary.
Yeah.
And It's like if you knew it would work, you wouldn't be afraid to do it, but it's that
Right.
coming back to that fear of failure. What if I spend all this
Totally.
money and nothing changes?
Exactly. And so I had that fear. And at that time, I let that fear get the best of me. So I spent a whole fucking year trying. And it's just like, if I would have added up, and if I would still today, add up all the money I ended up spending over that year trying different things that just like weren't as much of a upfront investment in time, energy, and money, I spent probably even more. So eventually, I ended up back with that doctor and I made the financial investment and I made the commitment to show up for myself in whatever way they suggested. And it worked. And I mean, of course, it was all trial and error. I feel that so many things trying to heal the gut and the skin and the hormones before. But once again, that it was really, truly part of my journey because I learned so much through it, even through the failures. So that's another one.
I love
I
that.
don't
I
like,
think another one that came to mind for me is I hear this all the time from my yoga students is I want to do yoga, but fill in the blank with a fear of failing.
yeah.
I'm afraid I'm going to look stupid. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to look dumb. Well, I've never done it before, so I don't know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
That sort of mindset is an example of a fear of failure
Yeah.
because if you have that desire to, in this example, practice yoga, if you have that desire to practice yoga, you know that there are so many benefits that come from that practice physically and mentally, and it can just really enrich your life in so many ways. So there's really no reason not to try except that lingering fear of failure, whatever
Mhm.
that shows up for you.
Mhm.
And that can stop people from ever doing it or not trying it until they're old, and or not even necessarily old, but like having physical issues, and their doctor's like, you need to practice yoga now because your body is not going to work if you keep going on the trail you're on.
Right.
So,
Same with a lot of my clients too. I've seen a lot of being afraid to start the journey to food freedom and intuitive eating because they're afraid that they're going to fail. And so, as you were just talking about that with yoga, and as I'm sitting over here reflecting, I almost feel like the fear of failure is kind of a surface level explanation or the surface level, like, I don't know, like quote or like idea that all of us think that it's all about, but there's so much underneath the fear of failure. One of them being that I think fear of failure is like a trust issue with yourself. Because if
mm,
I'm looking back at all the times, at least for me, maybe this doesn't resonate with everybody and that's okay. But when I'm thinking of all the times that there was a fear of failure, and honestly, that what I just explained with my clients, I was there once too. There was once a fear of when I invested $12,000 into a program to get help to learn how to create food freedom and end binge and emotional eating. I was afraid of failing and I was afraid of not being able to commit and learn and embody and trust my body. So with business, with the skin and the hormones, with the binge and emotional eating and the intuitive eating, it's almost like underlying the fear of failure was my inability to trust myself fully. It's like I had this fear of failing in my business because I didn't trust myself to do what it took to show up every single day to create the business that would actually create income and, provide for me in my life. It's like
mhm,
I was afraid of calling it afraid of failure with the health and wellness, but there was definitely a part of me who just didn't trust myself to follow what the doctor recommended for a protocol or to keep up with my supplements every single day. With the intuitive eating, there's a part of me that didn't trust myself enough to listen to my body. You know what I
mhm,
mean? I think
yeah.
underlying that is like we have a lack of self-trust.
Absolutely. I think that really relates to the investing into something or the entrepreneurship. Those are two really good examples. I mean, they all do, I think,
Totally.
but I completely agree with you. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when I took my first big investment, I think it was $3,000 into a course about online business,
Mhm.
learning how to create this and make money. And the big holdup is, yeah, they're saying, and like all these testimonials are saying, like, this program works if you follow it.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to like, will I follow this?
Right.
I think that's, not to go on a tangent now, but I think that's where investing money can be very beneficial, because it's that fire you need that's like, I just
Absolutely.
spent thousands of dollars on this. I
Absolutely.
need to show up. I need to put in the work, because when you do, and like that's why these coaches and business coaches can say that. It's like, if you do this, it will work, but you need to do it.
Right.
It's not just like, oh, you buy this program and now all of a sudden you're making tons of money. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you need to show up and you need to do these things, and you can, I'm giving you that blueprint of how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But are you going to follow that blueprint? Like,
Yeah.
do you have that trust in yourself? Because if you're like, I'm going to spend $3,000 knowing I can make $30,000 if I follow through, and I'm just throwing numbers out there right now, but you would do it.
Of
You would
course.
a million times do it,
Yeah.
because $3,000 to make $30,000, that's
Mhm.
insane.
Yeah.
That's such an incredible return on your money.
Absolutely.
But it's like that quote, like, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
Yeah.
But we let our minds kind of take over and say, well, what if this happens? Or what if this happens? Or what if you don't follow this? Or I don't trust that I'm going to follow through. So now I'm afraid and I'm going to make excuses. I'm going to procrastinate, even though I really want to do this.
And it's not, yeah. That's why I say that all the time. Money is the highest form of commitment. And I tell my clients all the time, like, part of the reason my programs are priced this way is for you, to help you show up for it. And with the self-trust, that can also create like a lot of, I don't know, like kind of upsetting feelings. But I want to point out that us not being able to trust ourselves is not our fault. And if you think about it, from a young age, we were taught to look outside of ourselves, like from the very start. Ask for somebody's opinion on this, ask for people's advice on what you should do. Look outside of yourself, reach to things outside of you, Google the answer, like look outside of yourself for the answer. We weren't taught to look in, which
Right.
kind of rocked and wounded our self-trust.
Right. Well, it's like that idea that you want to do it the quote unquote right way.
Yeah,
When a lot of things in life, there are multiple right ways of doing just
totally.
about anything.
Yeah.
So I know for me, and again, maybe this lands for you guys, maybe it doesn't, but for me, it was this need to do things the right way, to not waste my time by doing things the wrong way, because I just need to do it the right way the first time.
Mhm.
Where life doesn't usually work like that.
Yeah.
You need to have several iterations of something. You need to practice something before you get really good at it,
Mhm.
before you succeed. And we call it failure, call it whatever you want. I mean, you could call practice failure. It's the same thing. You're practicing a skill. You might not do it the greatest ever, but the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, the more successful you're going to be. And we don't always give ourselves that time and that grace to do those iterations and to have that trial and error. A lot of times I just wanted to do it the right, correct way from the get-go.
Yeah.
And again, that's me following someone else instead of me trusting my own intuition, my own direction,
Mhm.
seeing where things take me on my own versus just copying how someone else is doing it.
Yeah. Let's get into how people can start overcoming this, because I have something very powerful to say, and it goes along with like my advice on how to get over the fear of failure. So, the only way to quote unquote get over your fear of failure is to go through it. You got to go through the mud. You got to go through the thick of it, because when you were talking, I just thought of somebody who was telling me in my DMs, but I'm so afraid to invest. Like, I really want a successful business, but there are all these different business mentors. And I'm just so afraid to invest because, like, I want to make sure it's going to work. Like, I want to make sure I choose the right program. Well, guess who's still like in chaos and anxiety and stress over not having a business is this individual, because she is so afraid of failing. Like, she thinks it's about the program and whether the program will work or not, but it's not. Like, and so, I mean, part of it is, but majority of it is us and ourselves and our relationship with ourselves and trusting ourselves. The only way to get over failure is to go through what you're fearing and take it day by day. Because, and this goes into my second way to get over it, is like, you have to choose. Like, you can choose to just try the thing that you've been so afraid of failing at. You can choose to try it and see what happens. More than likely, you're going to succeed, or it's going to point you in the right direction to what you desire.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, it's going to teach you a divine lesson. And so you can either choose that, which of course it's hard to go through to go through the fear of failure, or you can choose to just hang out and just sit there in a state of chaos and anxiety and stress and sadness, wishing that you had the life that you really desire. Like that's hard to do too. The only way to get over failure is to go through it, because not only, well, actually, the main thing that does for you is prove to yourself that you can trust yourself. You actually can trust yourself to do these
You're
things.
going to build your trust along the way. And
Right.
that actually leads me into the biggest mindset shift that I made in my business. But you can relate this to anything that you're feeling afraid or nervous or find yourself creating excuses around. Shifting the idea of failure, like I can fail at this, to this is an experiment. And like you said, Sarah, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
That was a game changer for me in my business. When I stopped even thinking that anything could fail and started looking at everything as an experiment.
Mhm.
Let's see what happens. If it goes really well, hell yes, let's celebrate. If it doesn't go well, how can we do this different? How can we reiterate? Do it again, do it again, do it again.
Mhm.
Or, oh, that didn't work at all. Scrap that. I mean, I've had so many quote unquote failures in my business, but I don't look at anything in my business now as a failure. Everything's an experiment. Oh, we
Totally.
tried this new layout, did not work. No one liked it. People were confused, went right back to what it was before.
Mhm.
Okay, let's switch it up. Let's try something else. Let's get some feedback. Hey, what was confusing about this? What could we do differently? And it's the same with anything. Like, that's a business example. Let's relate it to yoga. You go to a yoga class and you realize once you get there, it's a hell of a lot harder and more advanced than where you're at. Okay. So instead of walking out, rolling up your mat and leaving, you can do your very best. Okay. Maybe you're balancing on one leg and you've never done this before and you fall out of it. Take a deep breath, shake it off, get back in it. You do that again and again and again. You keep trying. Maybe you use some different props to help support you wherever you are. And then before you know it, you're holding that pose and you're balancing and you're like, how the hell? I could never do this before.
Yeah.
But it's because you kept showing up, you got support that you needed, and you learned, you evolved, you got better at this thing that's pretty challenging.
Mhm.
And so when you take that pressure off of yourself, that it's either a success or it's a failure, and you shift it into it's an experiment, let's see what happens, taking that pressure off of yourself makes things seem a lot less scary.
Yeah.
And then it's easier to go for different things because it doesn't matter how it turns out. You're
Mhm.
going to you're going to learn along the way, and you're just going to get better and better at whatever it is you're trying to do.
Right. And when you do quote unquote fail, because I'm thinking about my journey with my face and my skin and how many different things that I tried, and some of them were a big investment still, even though it wasn't as big of a financial investment as I ended up paying at the end. They still were. And like with some things, with most things, until I worked with the doctor that I did, I it failed and it didn't really help me. But through failure, you realize that feeling is okay and you're going to be okay no matter what. And everybody always asks, like, how can I shift from a state of self doubt and self judgment and self criticism into being my own best friend, into being my own lover, into being my own supporter? How do I do that? And it's literally, this is the way to do it, is to take whatever you're afraid of failing at and go do that thing and go move through that fear of failure. Because over time, like with my face and my skin and clearing the face and getting my period back, I tried so many things that failed. And every single time something failed, I developed a deeper and deeper and deeper connection with myself and slowly turned into my own best friend. And like that was my acceptance journey with the skin as well. Like I learned so much through that year of trial and error about myself. I got deeper into, of course, like meditation and breath work and morning routines. And that's really when I realized that looks aren't everything. There were so many divine lessons in that year. Well, actually, it's probably about a year and a half of failing. So many divine lessons that I'm so freaking grateful for. So as you work through and go straight through the fear of failure, you're going to either succeed and you're going to be like, why the hell was I afraid of failing at this? One of them being, for me, and this is more recent, group programs. I had done so much one-on-one coaching and I really wanted to go to group programs, but there was such a big fear of that. And I finally just like went through the fear of failure and I took the leap, and my group programs have been extremely successful. And so that's either going to happen and you're going to be like, fuck yeah, like, why didn't I do this earlier? I'm so glad. Or maybe you do, quote unquote, fail, like I did for a year and a half with the face and the skin and the hormones and the period. And you're going to learn a shit ton in the process. It reminds me too of like, and I've talked about this story before, but the first business coach I ever hired, it was like a $10,000 program. And at the time, I think I had like 500 in my bank account, but I committed to paying it. And of course, there was a huge fear of failure, but I went through it. And I'll say I definitely noticed a little bit of success, a little like financially and like business wise.
For
But
sure
all
had
in
success in that
all,
program.
yeah, but all in all, like looking back, I don't use one tool and I don't like from that program, and I don't want, and my business is not the kind of business that that coach specifically was teaching me how to build a business. I didn't like his form. I didn't like his structure. It led to burnout. I didn't love it. And so looking back, there could be a part of me that was like, oh, you spent $10,000 and you don't use any of those tools anymore. And that was a waste and you failed because you invested in the wrong program. But no, like the opposite's true. I'm so fucking glad that I invested in that program and I did it that way. And I showed up for that program and it didn't end up being the way that I want to run my business, because I learned that from the get-go, how I do not want to run my business. And just like with the year and a half of feeling with the face, like I learned so many things that just don't work for my body. And now I know for the rest of my life, this is not how I want to run my business. And this is not what's working for my body. So
Yep.
I just think that once again, like there's so much underneath fear of failure. Self-trust is a big one, but I think another big one is just the freaking connotation of failure. We got to shift that
Yep.
because it's not a
For
bad
sure.
thing.
It's not a bad thing. It's absolutely not a bad thing. One thing I want to add to that was a big block for me was trying to think my way to the right answer and to the solution to not failing, instead of taking messy action, which we talk about a lot, and which is how this podcast was born, was through taking very messy action,
Mhm.
not knowing what the hell we were doing, but still doing it anyway and figuring it out. And I feel like this podcast is a perfect example of being something that we learned along the way. And now we've been doing it for over a year.
Mhm.
We've gotten so much better at it. And things that used to take us forever now take us either little or no time at all. But we would have never gotten to this point in podcasting if we kept putting it off and never trying it and just doing it.
Yep.
Do the damn thing.
Do the
Like, can
damn
that be the
thing.
motto of today's
Yeah.
episode? Do the damn
Maybe the title too. Do the damn
thing.
thing.
But you cannot think your way through it. You need to take action through it.
Literally.
Surrender, let go of the outcome or what
Yeah.
you want the outcome to be, and just put your best foot forward. Do the very best that you can, allow things to unfold, and then get better at it, recreate it, and do it again.
Yeah.
And we're going to look back on this podcast episode and be like, remember way back then when we used to do this and this and this, and look at how much better we are at all those things now. Like,
Yeah.
we're still continuing to grow and
Yeah.
evolve and learn, and you are too, with whatever it is you're working on.
I would go as far as to say that the thing that you're fearing failing at right now is the number one thing that you need in your life right now. If you want to move into your next level as a human, if you want to get closer to your truth, who you are and who you're here to be, the thing that you're fearing failing of is exactly what you need to go do. So we want to know, like, you guys need to reach out to us, DM us at our Instagram at Her Vibe is Pretty Podcast, or screenshot this episode and share it on your story and share with everybody what you've been fearing failing at and what is going to be your first step to take to go do that damn thing.
Love it. I love it. That's the perfect action step to end this episode.
Totally. Yeah. So, write down that thing, get clear on it, share it with us, share it with your audience or your followers or your friends or your family or whatever, and take a step toward it.
Yeah,
And
do it.
I'll tell you that I'm not going to give you guys a lot of detail right now because we'll give you guys details as it unfolds. But there is something that Mary and I just did that was super bold for our podcast. And so this is ours, Mary. I'm just deciding this for us. There was a fear of, and you know what? Actually, the thing that we're doing, we've actually tried to do it before about, I don't know, 6, 7 months ago.
Yep.
And we quote unquote failed at it. And we could have let that fear of failure, that fear of rejection control this and us in the show, but we didn't. There's something that, of course, there's little fears in our minds from taking the step that I'm not sharing with you guys yet. But yesterday we fucking did it. And
Yep.
I'll tell you what, it's going to work out. And if it doesn't, we're going to keep going because we don't let that fear of failure or that fear of rejection or that fear of doubt stop us anymore, because we know that all it does is keep us small and holds us back from our highest potential, as it does for you guys.
That's such a good, I didn't even think about it, but such a good example for today's episode.
Yeah. So that's
More to
ours.
come.
That's we
More to
took our
come.
action step already. We are paving the path. So now it's your guys' turn to take a small little action step on what you're fearing failing. Yeah.
It feels good. It's going to feel good. It's going to build that
Totally.
trust, and you will not regret it. Like, I have never ever once looked back and been like, I really shouldn't have done anything that failed. There's always that lesson. And
Yeah.
even if like in the moment you're like, what the hell lesson am I learning right now? Like, trust me when I say, if you
Totally.
don't currently see what the lesson is, you will develop and learn what that lesson is. Like, you will
Yeah.
be able to see it. I promise you.
And you're not supposed to know a lesson, because if you already knew the lesson, you wouldn't need to learn it.
Right, right, right. So,
This is so great.
it feels so good to be back. I freaking love this. I love you, Sarah. I love you, whoever is listening. Like, I just love everyone, and I'm very excited to be back. So,
Yes.
thank you guys so much for listening. We're so excited to see what action steps you are going to take. So let us know. Until next week, make sure that you check out and follow our Instagram page at Her Vibe is Pretty Podcast. Join our Facebook group, which is an incredible group of beautiful, beautiful humans. That's another great place that you can share this, because it's a supportive community. People will help you, figure out how to take that next step if you're feeling stuck. Like, it's just a really good place for you to connect with other listeners. That's Her Vibe is Pretty Podcast on Facebook. And then, of course, subscribe to this podcast. And if you really love us, which we know you do, leave us a review for the podcast. That is like one of the best ways that you can support us, support the show, and keep us moving forward.
Right. Thank you guys so much for being here. We love you, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.